Welcome to the Halls of Atonement Mythic Guide. I'll be covering all the bosses and their abilities, as well as the notable trash and kicks needed to complete this dungeon. Let's get started. You're going to see this group of trash throughout the dungeon. It includes vicious gargons, which have a stacking bleed that it puts on the tank and needs to be kited once it starts to stack up. And a depraved houndmaster. It's one of the most dangerous mobs in the dungeon due to loyal beast casts that can happen any time once it is below 50% health. This must be interrupted with a stun, a knockback, or anything but a normal kick. If it's not interrupted, the vicious gargons within 30 yards gain 125% increased damage over 20 seconds, so just make sure this one's kicked. Loyal Stoneborn. These are unique in that Venthyr can ally with them, and they come in real handy. They are positioned throughout the dungeon near key points that will help you with big trash or even boss fights. If you don't have a Venthyr in your group, either avoid this guy or burn him down solo before moving on. If you do ally with him, then he does not give count towards the timer in a Mythic Plus. Depraved Collector casts an ability called Collect Sins, inflicting damage and summoning an ad called Animated Sin every 1 second for 6 seconds. This needs to be kicked with a stun or similar incapacitating ability. Normal interrupts fail on this one. The Shard of Halkias, 3 of these are in the dungeon and you must kill all 3 in order to activate the first boss. The attacks of Shard of Halkias are uninterruptible and just need to be burned down. Halkias, the Sin-Stained Goliath. Make sure that all players are aware that this boss is being pulled because he spawns a large circle around himself that everyone must stand in. Anyone caught outside the circle will permanently be feared for the fight. Halkias has 2 smaller damaging abilities, Crumbling Slam, which slams the ground leaving glass shards behind, and Heave Debris, which hurls a pile of glass shards on the ground. Don't stand on these, and the tank needs to kite away from these before the boss reaches 100 energy. At 100 energy, Halkias will cast Refracted Sunlight, a channel cast that does a ton of damage if you're caught in it. Keep moving and watch for him to sometimes suddenly change directions. Stoneborn Eviscerators. This is basically a demon hunter. It's going to dash and throw glaives at players and cast a stacking ability called Stony Veins. If it gets to 10 stacks on any one player, that player dies. Just focus and kill this one quickly. Stoneborn Reaver. This one also casts Stony Veins, so kill him quickly, but make sure that you interrupt the turn to stone cast. This will stun everyone around him for 8 seconds, and buff his allies for 50% reduced damage taken for 20 seconds. Stone Fiend Ankle Biters. These run in packs, and our nasty part about them is that each attack has a chance to stun the enemy. They don't have a lot of health, so just burn these down. Stoneborn Slashers only activate 1 at a time. The others turn to stone and they rotate on which one is active every few seconds. These are at the base of the stairs heading into Echelon. Generally just grab the active one and run him up the stairs to avoid the other ones activating on you. Echelon. 6 imps will spawn from either side of this room. They need to be grouped before they're being killed. They don't actually die here. Rather, they turn to stone and will come back later if they aren't shattered. To shatter the imps, one player will be marked with a circle called Stone Shattering Leap, and they need to stack on the imps to fully kill them. If you fail to do this, the imps will heal and come back to life, with a new set of imps will spawn and join them. While this is going on, Echelon will spawn blood pools around the ground that you should just not stand in. High Adjudicator Aleez. 2 abilities that really matter are Volley of Power, that needs to be kicked, and Spectral Procession, which summons a ghastly parishioner that just needs to be led into one of the Vessels of Atonement, commonly called a lamp or a lantern by players. Another ability, Bolt of Power, can be kicked, but if you're unsure that the volley will be kicked, then skip this one and kick the volley. It's the important kick in this fight. Inquisitor Sigar, mini-boss worth 7.3% of the total count for your Mythic Plus trash in this dungeon. All trash between Echelon and Lord Chamberlain count up to 24.9% of the total trash for your Mythic Plus timer. So if you kill all the trash from after Echelon, you need to be at 75.1% trash count when you go through the door after Echelon. He casts Dark Communion, healing him for the duration of the channel, which cannot be kicked or interrupted, and he turns tormented souls while he is channeling into manifestations of envy. The strategy here is just to kill as many of the tormented souls before he can change them into manifestations of envy. So focus the trash, let the tank move the boss around the room. Any damage that you do before the trash is killed, he will just try to heal through.
I tire of your boorish presence.
Lord Chamberlain, probably the easiest boss in this dungeon. The two critical damaging moments that happen are Ritual of Woe. 4 players need to stand between Lord Chamberlain and his statues and soak the damage that he puts out, and a stacking dock called Stigma of Pride that happens on the tank for 18 seconds, which just has to be healed through. The other abilities are Telekinetic Toss. He yanks one statue through the air at someone. He glances their direction just before the toss so you can move. Telekinetic Onslaught and Repulsion. He pulls all 4 statues into him, then blasts them back out. Just move to avoid this entirely. The last ability for him is Unleash Suffering. This is a telegraphed cone cast, and it just needs to be stepped out of to avoid. And that's it. That's Halls of Atonement.
Watch your step.